essentially we have a demo environment set up here for today, but each client has their own demo setup, and they can log in with their own credentials. When you log into Hirepeak, you're brought to your dashboard. Now this dashboard varies depending on who the person is who's logged in. If you're an interviewer, you'll have information related to you. If you're a hiring manager, you'll have more information relating to whatever a hiring manager needs to know. For example, active positions. I'm logged in as an admin right now, so we'll be able to see the entire system. So from our dashboard, we have a quick screenshot of any of the interviews we've done in the last 5 days, anything that's due today, tomorrow, and here we have feedback that's pending. So 6 interviews have been completed that I have not provided my feedback for. And then as a hiring manager, I will be able to see all of my open positions, and we have a quick snapshot of all of those details below here. So Hirepeak is basically broken down into 4 categories. First one is positions. Now, this information can be pulled from your ATS system. Currently, we integrate with JobVite, so all of your position details and all of your open positions will be pushed into Hirepeak. If you go to the detail page, you can see that we've split it into 3 sections. First one is the position details. Here's everything you need to know about the position, the description. You can also attach a file. And then we have required and desired skills. So these are the items that are going to be evaluated during the interview, and you can customize this to whatever needs you have for the position. Then below we have a candidate workbench. Here we can see all of the candidates who are currently in the process. We can see what their last interview was, their recommendation, and I can click on a particular candidate and see a detailed view. Below we have interview setup. So here's the structure. We define each round not only by name, but by questions to ask in that round in the form of question sheets. So if we click on a question sheet, you'll see that we have 19 questions here that can be asked in the interview. And then we have the skills associated with them. And these skills are part of the scorecard we looked at above. Then we can define the separate rounds, and we can also assign interviewers to each one of those rounds. So as you can see, it's a very consistent process. Now each candidate that is added, the interview sequence applies to them, and you can see how far along each candidate is in the process. To schedule an interview, we can select the specific round and hit schedule. Here I choose the candidate, the position, the round, and more importantly who the interviewer is. I can select the duration, the location, the time, and even provide some interview instructions. When I hit schedule, a notification will be sent out to all of the relevant members, the hiring manager, the interviewer, the candidate as well. So let's just hit schedule for now. Now an interview has been scheduled. The second thing we like to focus on is candidates. So we do not consider ourselves an ATS because we do manage the process a little bit, but we integrate with a lot of ATSs. So this is just a quick snapshot way of viewing candidate details. If you jump into a candidate here, you'll see that we have a very similar format as we did in the position screen. So we have the details, and all of this is pulled from the resume. We can see his last employer, degree earned if available, and we also have interview history, any linked positions, and any attachments. For example, a cover letter, reference contacts, whatever the case may be. Then we have content. So here content, we've broken it down into 4 different categories. A position template is a generic template that we've defined to minimize the amount of time it takes for you to create a new position. Here we'll provide an interview sequence, we'll provide a basic description, and a bunch of skills that anyone in the industry should have. We have questions. So currently we have about 3,000 questions in the system, and it's a library that's constantly improving and increasing. We have question sheets. So we take the questions and put them into a bulk question sheet, and those question sheets can then be added to a particular round. So for screening, you might want to ask something that's a little bit less technical. For the first round, you might want to go into a little more detail, but all of those can be defined here. And of course, we provide a bunch of question sheets as well. And then skills is anything you could possibly imagine as being a evaluation criteria. And then you can just, once all the data is in there, we'll provide tons of data as well, but you can also customize that data to your liking. You can add your own company's questions, you can add your own company question sheets. But once that is all done, we can actually go to the interview tab. So, the interview tab. Here's where we kind of manage all of the interviews being scheduled. This is your main dashboard if you're a recruiter. Here, we can see that there is tons and tons of interviews, and we separate them by the name, candidate, and interviewer. And then if your interview is scheduled, you'll not only see a calendar notification, but the calendar notification will include a link to your prep screen. And we'll jump into that in a second. So once the interview is scheduled, the rounds are defined, the question sheet is attached, the questions are determined, the skills are determined, and it's all scheduled and good to go. An interviewer can then click on his link and be brought to a prep screen. So this is the main focus of Hirepeak, conducting interviews. Here, we've broken it down into 3 categories: prep, conduct, and feedback. These are the 3 stages of an interview. Prep is what you do beforehand. So our interviewers wanted to be able to look at the candidate details, look at the position details, know what they were going to ask in that interview before they walked in. Now, this system is not visible to the candidates at all. This can be done over the phone. It can be done through a video conference. If you're doing this in person, you can also print an offline interview packet. The offline packet contains all of the details you'll see here, as well as the candidate resume and the position details. So the prep screen is something you can go to at any point in time. You can review the skills, you can add and remove any details here, and you can take notes. You can also access the candidate's resume below at any time. Once you're ready, you hit begin interview. When you hit begin interview, you'll be brought to the conduct stage. And the conduct stage is when the actual evaluation is begun. And what I mean by that is you can now start asking the questions. So now if we hover over a question, it says ask. When I click on ask, we'll see a pop-up that gives you the question, the skill, the difficulty level, the answer to that question, as well as a rating system. So we don't have a 1 to 10 scale. We provide you with an expected answer, and it's up to the interviewer to decide whether that answer was correct, partially correct, or exceptional. So for the purposes of the demo, I'll quickly rate a few of these, and the reason why I'm doing so is to demonstrate how the scoring works. So as I'm rating these, the skills in the scorecard start appearing with a number next to them. This is the rating for that skill. So that rating is determined by the difficulty level of the question versus the rating that you provided for the candidate. Now, each of these has a system score. So the system score is what the algorithm gives us, but we can also manually override. And if we override, the hiring manager will be notified that, hey, this is a manual score. And this can be done for all the topics. And for something like communication, where you don't really need to ask a question, you can make a mental judgment and say, yes, he's an 8. That will also appear as a manual score. So here I can take notes on a question basis, on a skill basis, and when I'm done, I can go ahead and hit end interview. And then it will prompt me that you're now leaving the conduct phase and going into feedback. Here, I can, look at the overall rating, look at the recommendation, and it's either yes or no, and review my notes to provide some general feedback. And the feedback is what gets passed along in the reports. So once I'm done, I can go ahead and hit submit feedback. As an interviewer, I am now done. There's no following up with the recruiter. There's no emailing my feedback. Everything is in the system, it was conducted in the system, and the reports will be generated through the system as well. So now to demonstrate some of those reports, we'll go back to the position, and we'll generate a candidate report for David. So if we view it online, we'll see that this is David's candidate report. The report contains years of experience, overall rating, his recommendation, yes or no, a summary if there was one provided, his last employer, education, here's the skills that he has, and here's the skills that he doesn't have. We can also see a quick snapshot of what the overall feedback was for each of those rounds. So there's 2 interviews conducted, 6 and a 5, and then we can see the actual interview feedback if available. And then we can see the skills ratings. So this isn't as informative as a comparison report, and that's the second type of report. So a comparison report is a lot more valuable because now we can actually compare multiple candidates side by side. So let's just throw in David as well and click View Report. Now, a comparison report is actually 3 candidate reports pulled together. So we'll see the total years of experience for each. Now we have a rating for each one of the candidates, 1st, 4th, and 5th. We can see which interviews were conducted so far and which are missing. We can then put candidates side by side. This is the most important piece. You can now see which candidate is proficient in what skill and visually tell who is the most proficient. We can also see a breakdown of all the different feedback from each round. So this, of course, is a demo report, and real reports are much, much more robust. We've had people who put in pages of feedback, and that's very, very valuable. And the more interviews you do, the better the data gets. So that's a quick snapshot of Hirepeak. At this point, if we have any questions, we can jump into those.